Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzalez, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Picture this. World's fastest man lifting an 800-pound boulder over their head. Not gonna happen. Those dudes are skinny, right? You look at these guys crushing 2-hour marathons. They're not strong people.
Right. Not in the sense of strongest man strong.
Muscular.
Huge muscles, really built, probably go to a show and show off their muscles.
Yes.
That's not that person.
That's not the person. And the other way around, that bodybuilder type person is going to be gassed running a mile or two.
I just think about holding up their arms.
Yes.
How heavy they are.
Yes. That brings up a really funny memory. I used to watch this show on MTV. It was like the Road Rules versus Real World challenge. And there was this one challenge where they had to hold their arms out to the side with candles in their hands. And then they put like a little bowl under each of their hands with some paint in it. So they knew if they'd ever touched that they had touched and they were disqualified, right? And people were like, oh, the dudes with, these guys that are so stacked, like they're going to win. They were some of the first people out because they could not hold their gargantuan arms up for very long.
Right. Perception meets reality.
Yeah. You're like, why are they talking about strong and fast dudes? Well, in life, you gotta choose what your priority is.
Yeah.
And you can't prioritize everything.
Yep.
We've had clients, we've had friends, we've had family that is really clear. First of all, they're stressed as heck, right? But it's really clear that the smallest things affect them just as much as what you would think would be the most important of things.
Sure.
And what you can observe in them is that everything is a priority of equal importance because they treat everything with the same amount of urgency.
Yes.
And so what does that create?
Well, I think you have a couple of outcomes. You have outcomes where you have burnout. You're just done. None of the things that are important are getting any of your attention.
True.
That's one of the outcomes.
Yeah.
Then you have another outcome where you are also feeling a negative way, but you're stressed because you are putting in all of your time to try and put out all of these fires that you feel are just so important and urgent, all of this equal urgency, and you still see nothing is getting done.
Right.
Then you have somebody that goes, they have, we'll say 5 priorities. All of these are the same urgency, on the same level, stressed about all of them, but they're going to focus on one. Even though they make progress on one, they feel like a failure because all the other 4 aren't getting equal and proportional attention.
Right. Right. You think about the Strongman running a marathon, and it's like, well, that's kind of absurd, right? They're not going to be the one that sets the record.
No.
They're not built that way.
Well, it's wrong person, wrong seat.
Yes, it is. So when you then think about a business, it would be absurd to believe that a business could be both super high touch with their customers and clients and the low-cost leader in the market.
Sure.
That's absurd.
Sure.
How is that possible? Those two things cannot exist together at the same time. And yet, there are business owners that treat their business like it should be. Everything, all important, all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think you end up with a business that's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well, I just think about it. We've talked about it in previous episodes where we're entrepreneurs and we start our businesses doing everything. We're doing all the things. We're doing bookkeeping. We're doing invoicing. We're doing client meetings. We're doing sales. We're doing literally all of it. We're doing the work and we're doing the admin, all the things. We have probably a million hats. And somewhere down the road, there comes a time where we hire somebody and we take off a hat. But sometimes we don't really take that hat off. We still own it, but we're kind of managing it through somebody else. And we fool ourselves to think that we're the only ones that can do it well. And talking about how we have all these problems or issues and we're treating them with equal importance. Well, as an entrepreneur, if we have 5 different hats and we're able to put 20% of our effort and time into one hat, so all of these hats get 20% of our time, if we hire somebody in to take one hat from us, and that's all they do, then wouldn't it be just obvious that they would do a better job of that than we would ever be able to do?
Yeah, even if they're not as skilled as you and they're executing at 80% of what you could do if you had all the time to do it.
Correct.
It's still way better than you trying to do it right now.
Correct. And then you can get out from under the load, the stress of doing it all yourself, see from a different perspective of not being overworked and really stressed and all the things that you're feeling over here. Because somebody is doing the work, you're able to see the work and then make tweaks on your training or update the process or whatever that looks like. So the thing that was already just kind of okay becomes automatically better because somebody else is spending their dedicated time on it.
Yeah.
So I think that applies here.
Yeah, I think about that book, The One Thing,
Yes.
as well. It's actually sitting on our countertop right now. We had to pull it away from a toddler that pulled it off of our bookcase and then wrote all over it with a
Well,
pen.
he saw the question mark on the back and thought it was Maui's hook.
That's true. Hysterical, right? Hysterical that he thought that. Not funny, he wrote all over the cover.
Anyway.
That's neither here nor there. All right. The thing about that book, though, is, and people have a hard time with it, is the whole premise of it is that one thing is far more important than all the other things that are asking for your attention.
Yes.
And that if you handle that one thing, it automatically takes care of so many problems. And I remember sitting over dinner one time with this other entrepreneur couple, and I remember making this comment that was like, well, there's only a couple of areas of business that you can focus on, and you got to choose one at a time so that you can actually get somewhere with it.
Yeah.
And you sort of have to let everything else burn. And I remember the look on their face across the table was like, what? What do you mean? Like
they might have just had an aneurysm because it was so out there for them.
Like, what do you mean? Like, you would just like not respond to a customer complaint, or you would like not pay your bill, or like
whatever that thing was.
Whatever that thing was. And it was like, no, I mean, you take care of the things you need to, but there are certain things you have to live with that are just not going to get your attention right now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we learned from our time with the Clockwork program, we've talked a lot about Mike McAlliwick's books on this podcast. There's 4 areas of your business. There's attracting new leads. There's converting those leads into customers or clients. Then there's delivering your service or your product. And then there's the cash flow. You may have fires going on in every single one of these areas of your business, but you can't put them all out at one time.
No way.
However, you can make significant progress on the one that would most impact the business right now.
Right. So you understand the hierarchy of the problems.
Yes.
You have 5 problems. We'll say 4 because there's the 4 different areas.
Sure.
You decide which one is top priority.
Yes.
Then the next one, the next one, and the next one, and you take care of them in order, but you must focus on one at a time.
Yep. And Clockwork suggests spending a whole quarter working on one of those quadrants. And, we found that to be pretty effective as well.
Absolutely.
Because, if you think about just the attract part, attracting new business, are you really going to accomplish a lot in 2 weeks of focus with building your marketing engine?
No way.
No. But what can you accomplish in 90 days?
Absolutely.
So much.
You can accomplish a lot and come away with some information about how it worked.
Yes. You run it long enough to figure things out, to make tweaks.
Yep.
You push your team members in one direction to help support this new initiative. You get some repetitions under your belt and you realize it's working, it's not working, or what we need to improve.
Right.
And you can't do that unless you start moving, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they just change directions so many times and never get the traction because there's no follow through on really getting close to a problem and working everything out about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think about the creation of a budget, whether that's business or personal. I just think about our personal budget. When we really got down to it and we looked at, okay, so the goal is we want to be within our budget. We have this much money coming into our household and we want it to do certain jobs for us. So we assign jobs to every dollar that we have. And then we watched how things changed and shifted because of our focus and our purpose and the actions that we were taking to make the change. So we did not abandon a budget because maybe we went outside of the limits on one category. We rethought, okay, so maybe we didn't give that enough money. And maybe this one still has a balance over here. Maybe we need to shift this up. And so we just looked to see what worked and just kept going, but not ever thinking, oh, a budget doesn't work. It's a process. Getting things done, regardless of priority and how we think that everything is a priority all at once and of equal importance. Recognizing that growth in your business, your marriage, your family, whatever facet you're looking at, whatever area of your life, I think it can be really helpful to take the perspective of this is a journey, not a destination. That it is a process and we're on the road. It's like going on a trip. Yes, you have a destination in mind, but once you get to Yellowstone and you've hiked, well, you're going to go somewhere else. And then you're going to go somewhere else. And the trip actually continues because regardless of going home, that trip is going to continue in another way. So you just shift what you're doing. You have accomplished something and you move on to the next thing. I guess sometimes we feel like, well, shouldn't the work just be done?
It's a fantasy,
yeah.
right?
Shouldn't this just not be a problem anymore, like ever? Not going to happen. Let's own the journey and be present for the journey. I think that we can be happier and more grounded when we actually come back to the reality that the work is never done and we continue to move forward. And which way are we going to go? Are we going to go with purpose, or are we just going to let the wind take us wherever we want, wherever it wants?
Yeah. Yeah, you can play whack-a-mole with your life, which is pretty chaotic.
I love that visual.
Yeah. Pretty chaotic. You're just doing everything you can to just boom, 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 knock those babies down. But what happens? You knock one down, another one pops up.
Or two or three.
Or two or three. And life is so much like that. And business, reflects that easily because you solve for one problem, you level the business up, and what happens?
There's just different problems.
Different problems that you would not have maybe anticipated.
Absolutely.
Until you got there.
So we can choose to be frustrated when we get there, or we can choose to say, this is working out just as it was meant to. Not in the sense of like, bad things happen to me and it's always bad. It's more like, oh, well, of course I'd still be growing.
Well, we'll give you an example of one of the things that we've realized, and I don't know if we have much more to share about this, but we look at like our priority with our business and family and how that works together. We've been very open about it on the podcast. Family's the priority right now, in particular because our boys are so small and they're at home.
Yeah.
Right? And what that means for us and what that looks like is work is more or less done by 2:00 every day.
Right.
So we understand that with this choice and with this priority, we cannot serve our sales pipeline to the highest degree.
Sure.
Right? Because I'm not typically taking calls in the afternoon.
Sure.
I'm willing to.
Sure.
But it's not like available on my calendar. I will put people on there and...
Sure.
But that's not the priority, right? So in effect, like we're kind of letting that side burn a little bit.
Right.
It could be tweaked.
Right.
It could be improved. We could maybe hire somebody to fill that.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of ways that we could do that, but what we're choosing is focus at home.
Right.
Continue to grow the business between 9 and 2:00.
Right.
Focus on process.
Right. Processes is where we're really focusing right
Building
now.
the team member.
To support the growth that we see as being the next phase.
Yes.
We're still growing. That's not stopping, but we are allowing ourselves to focus on this one place and not feel bad that the other place isn't getting the revolutionary changes that we're trying to create in the process.
Yes. And in particular with our industry, and I know a lot of industries are affected, AI is just turning industries on its head and how we do things. And so right now, the focus for us is process and delivery. You know, how can we take what we're learning and applying and testing
Thanks for
and
tuning
bring
in
it to
to
our
this week's
clients
episode
for
of the
maximum
Babies
benefit?
and Business
Absolutely.
Podcast.
And like, so that's where our focus
Who do
is
you
right
know
now.
that
If
would
we
benefit
decided,
from
no,
hearing
we
this
need to grow the
episode?
business,
Share it with them
I think we'd
and
be
post
out of
about it
business
on
in 2
social
years.
media.
Sure.
You
Because
can
this
find
is
the
so
show notes for
important
this
right now. We've
episode,
identified
free
that as
downloads,
so important.
and connect
Other
with the rest
things
of the community at
Absolutely.
babiesandbiz.com.
Well, and I'd love to hear you talk about
We'll see
something
you
else that we
next
learned
time.
in Clockwork. I just thought that the perspective that was given was, at the time for us, revolutionary. And that was the control spectrum. And I don't know that that's really what it was called, but that's the thing that I think of. So we'll link the stuff for Clockwork in there and you can look at this, but explain to us what that is and like how that would apply to things being equal priority and people feeling that way and hiring and how that applies.
Well, and shout out to Kim in advance. Kim helps produce the podcast. She does all the graphics and stuff. She'll probably have to make a graphic of this for you and put it on there. So just think of a line, almost like a timeline in front of you with ends on it.
Yep.
And
it's horizontal.
On horizontal. So on one end, you would put the word control. And on the other end, you'd put the word freedom.
Yeah.
So in your business, you get to choose, do I want more control? So you would slide yourself over towards that control side.
Meaning that you do most of the work. You have your hands and fingers and everything. You have approval. There's all sorts of stuff, but you pretty much touch everything.
But you got control.
Yep.
It's going to be your way. But you can see that being all the way over on this side, you are further from freedom than you were before.
Yeah.
If you shift yourself towards the other end of the spectrum, all the way over to the freedom, well, now you've got the freedom to go do all these different things maybe you couldn't do before, make some different choices, but you don't have anywhere close to the same level of control that you had over on the other side. And so as a business owner, you have to choose what is more important to you.
Yes, absolutely. And what fits your goals? Do you desire more freedom or more control? And when you really think about this, I think that everyone listening to this podcast desired more freedom because in the corporate 9-to-5 world, it is you are at the behest of somebody else. You are going to go in at 9 o'clock, clock out at 5, you're done. But when you have your own business, you do want more freedom in all sorts of ways. More freedom to be with your kids, maybe more freedom to go out and do something with your family that you wouldn't normally do, or even go on vacation, maybe have a shorter work day. There's so many different things that freedom means to you. And I dare say that entrepreneurs want more freedom. And sometimes we get caught up in thinking that we must have control in order to have the freedom, or, we just feel really torn by that, and that they are at opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. And I think when we were first introduced to that spectrum, it was eye-opening because I was like, oh, you can't control your way to freedom.
No. You can empower people. And there was another tool that was talked about, how do you delegate something to somebody and have it not boomerang back to you? Yeah. Well, the answer is empower them to finish the process. Yes. I loved the example they used, and that was buy me some pens.
Yeah, it was a great one.
I thought that was such a great one. Very simple. You can tell your assistant, I need pens, and that's all you say to them. Or you can say, I need pens. I'd like them to be ballpoint. I'd like them to be black. I'd like them on my desk by Friday.
Yeah.
I don't care about the price.
Yeah.
That gives a little bit more understanding about what you want. So when you say, I just want pens, well, prepare yourself to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because if you like ballpoint and you didn't specify that, and you didn't specify black, you might get pink, and you might get more like a Sharpie. It could be something. Yeah. There's so many ranges of things. So specificity in how we communicate, but also understanding that the things that matter must be communicated in order for them to actually come about. So when we're training people,
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at the last episode, episode 90,
yep,
if you give somebody the objective and why they're doing the thing, you don't need to control all of the, I want a ballpoint in black, not blue, and this and that. If they know why you're doing it,
exactly.
they'll probably figure it out, unless they're a dum-dum, and you got to hire somebody new.
Yeah, but really what it is that you have the ability to properly delegate something. If you've given them enough information to know what complete looks like, you've empowered them to go and do that thing and not have to come back with questions to you.
Yeah.
And feel like, yet again, like the universe is telling you, you can't delegate anything because it just comes right back to you. You can stop that chain reaction.
Yeah.
But again, that's more resources with Clockwork. It was so helpful, the different perspectives that were lent to this. So I think we want to just close up with, when we treat everything in our life with equal priority and everything must get touched and everything must get done at the same time, there are real things that come about with that.
Yeah, consequences.
Yeah,
you get burned out, you're going to be stressed, you're going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
There's no need to feel like that, because when you whack one mole, one will come back up.
Yeah.
So that's inevitable.
Yeah.
So the quicker we stop obsessing over all the small stuff, the more freedom we have.
Yeah.
There's a really fun book I listened to. Just by the way, I'll leave with this. It was by Mark Manson, and it was now I'm forgetting the name of the book. Oh man.
We'll make sure to put it in the show notes, though. We'll look it up
Yeah,
after.
but basically, the F word is in the title, right? Maybe it's the subtle art of not giving an F, something like that, or
Okay.
I forget what it is. But the point is, he's like, look, you only have so many Fs to give in a day. So if you give them out to like everybody, you will have none left for the things that really do deserve. Right?
I like that.
So very funny book. He swears a lot because it is hysterical. But that is the point, right? You actually can only give so much importance and energy to so many things. And if you give it to everything, you have nothing left for the stuff that matters.
Yeah. Conserve your energy, have a purpose, have a strategy, and it's going to help you. But also remember that it's a process, not a destination. You might have arrived at the place where you've fixed this problem, but be prepared for the next thing to come up and see it as the process instead of being frustrated that you've failed somehow.
Yeah, you haven't.
Nope.
You're doing great.
Yep.
Journey, not destination. Hey, thanks so much for listening in to this podcast. We appreciate you for tuning in. If you think of somebody that would really enjoy this particular topic, make sure you grab the link to the podcast, send them a text message, share it with them. We'd love to hear what they thought about it as well. So with that, we appreciate you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.